Welcome to Zimbabwe, where hospitals don't have electricity, teachers don't have chalk, students don't have exams, the country doesn't have cash, but the regime somehow has money, time, and transport to export abductions across borders like a diplomatic delivery from hell. Tonight, our main story isn't just a scandal, it's a full-blown state-sponsored Netflix series, and the title? The Hunt for Nyoka Emabunu Limpopo Edition. Let's begin with a little recap, shall we? It all began when the Minister of Home Affairs, with all the subtlety of a drunken bouncer at a nightclub, publicly declared that they would come for Nyoka Emabunu even if it meant crossing into South Africa. This, by the way, is the same minister whose police can't catch copper cable thieves in Mbare, but now claims they have GPS coordinates for activists in hiding. Impressive focus, if only potholes were on the most wanted list too. Not to be left out, the Minister of Information, Zimbabwe's official spin doctor and head of National Lie Commission, chimed in to echo the same threats. Apparently, these two were so triggered by Nyoka's bold social media posts that they momentarily forgot that Zimbabwe still owes $21 billion and can't afford to print exam papers. The list doesn't stop there. It also stretches to Minister Daniel Garwe and other notable chorus dogs for Idi Mnangagwa. Here is one such threat.
Kana kutuka president, kana kutuka machairman emaprovince, kana kutuka musangano weZANU-PF, kana kushora hurumende, isusu tonyarara. Kana kutora tobva taposta kune mumwe munhu, ukaposta urikuratidza kuti mbuira nezvekutaurwa naGeza, pasina Geza. Ndakambotaura ndiri kumasvingo, ndikati Geza haasiri musoro wenyaya muridzi waGeza. Geza ndibhoki, toda kutsvaga muridzi wabhoki nekurova bhoki. Ndati Geza ndibhoki. Kune vasingaziva kuti bhoki ndani, bhoki imbwa. Kuna usina kuziva muridzi wembwa, unorova imbwa. Kana usina kuziva amai vehanda, unobata handa, unoona amai vacho vakuuka kuya kwauri. Iko zvinoti mwaka wekurova Geza. Nyangwe akauya achida kuita mademonstrations, musabvuma kupfurirwa kuzviparadza. Toda kukutendai kuti makataura kuti isusu hatiite zvisina maturo. Tanga wabuda mumwena mauri Geza, udzoke kuno, uye kuno, titaure takatarisana. Kana uchitipfekedza saki, wotipfekedza saki. Asi ndoda kukuvimbisai kuti Geza ndiri kumupfekedza saki. Iko zvino akapfeka saki kutaura kwatiri kuita kuno.
Lo and behold, just days after the threats, armed men showed up in South Africa, reportedly linked to Zimbabwe's ever-elusive intelligence community. And no, they weren't there to promote tourism. Their mission? To abduct Nyoka, the activist with a keyboard and too many opinions for the regime's liking. Imagine being so powerful you make ministers sweat by typing. But guess what? Nyoka escaped, outwitted them, vanished, dissolved like logic at a ZANU-PF rally. No shots were fired, no arrests made, because the goons were apparently better at posing than pursuing. Nyoka has since gone completely quiet on WhatsApp, which in Zimbabwe activism terms is like a volcano going silent. You know the eruption is coming. It's just a matter of time. A source close to Nyoka has confirmed that he's safe, breathing, and as defiant as ever. He's just changed all his phone numbers after learning that they were using his phone to track him, possibly with some combination of Chinese spareware, got bonds, and Econet tower triangulation. Who needs a working economy when you've got surveillance technology?
Masirase, hai sutiripo zvedu takachengetwa naShe. Handova vanhu vachitaura havo nemanyepo kuti chikomuro chekavabhunu vati problem ndeyemafoni avo, ivo havo toziva pavari havari right. Saka nyaya iripo rekuti problem ndeyemafoni avo hamene zvakaitika, but ivo varipo ndambotaura navo. Saka ngoma ndiyo hatindirire mberi nenhau yedu iyi yechingungundengu chedu kusvika tasvika, kusvika tapinda mukenani. Foni yangu inini ndiyo iri kugwara, dzasamaona ndisina kutaura muno. Foni yangu iri kugwara, but ndichaita kuti nditsvage mangwana. Iri kuramba kuchaja foni yangu, asi mangwana ndichatsvaga imwe foni tinyatso kutaura zvakanaka. Ngoma ndiyo chingungundengu chedu kusvika tanoona kenani, tisadzokere sure. Hatirambe takatsika patakatsika ipapo, toremberera tiripo pamadedhasi edu iwawa. Hatiremberere ipapo kusvika tanoona shanduko.
But this isn't just a story about one man. This is a story about a government so afraid of criticism, it's now exporting abductions like it's a sovereign right. Zimbabwe's intelligence services, who can't locate 15 missing gold bars or the billions looted from COVID funds, somehow managed to locate one activist in a safe house across the border. Priorities, comrades, priorities. Let's look at what should have been a medical miracle. Tatenda Pinjisi, a 34-year-old rising Zimbabwean musician, survived a horrific road accident on his way to a show in Kadoma. He made it alive to Salim Mugabe Central Hospital, the so-called flagship of Zimbabwe's public health system. And yet, he died in an imaginary agony. Why? Because the hospital had no painkillers, no electricity, no equipment, no hope. In a haunting video circulating online, Pinjisi, writhing in pain with broken bones, can be heard begging for pain ease, a mild over-the-counter painkiller usually reserved for headaches, period cramps, and the occasional hangover. But this was the only thing he thought might give him relief, because that's how low the bar has fallen in Zimbabwean healthcare. No morphine, no pethidine, just pain ease in a central hospital in 2025.
Pain is rikativaudza vakutsvagirawo pain is musukuru.
Nurses were forced to use cell phone torches to attend to him. There was no lighting, no working trauma ward equipment, just echoes of suffering and the scent of death. Pinjisi didn't die because of the accident. He died because the state let him rot in the dark with nothing but despair and broken promises. The tragedy hit hard. Even music legend Alec Macheso broke down on stage and reportedly walked off mid-performance after hearing the news. But as the tears flowed, Zimbabweans were left with burning questions. Why do musicians keep singing for this regime? Why perform for those who load hospitals while artists die begging for Panadol substitutes? And that's when it happened. Pain Ease went viral. Suddenly, the humble little pill became a national symbol of state failure. Memes flooded social media, TikToks, Facebook Reels, even comedians got in on it. Pain Ease became the punchline in a country where the joke is always on the people. But while the memes may be funny, the pain is real. A doctor at Salim Gabe Hospital spoke off the record and said, Tatenda should have survived, but there was nothing we could give him, not even Panado. This happens every day. The only difference is that today it happened to someone famous. She added that the rich are not safe. If you are involved in a car crash far from a private hospital, you will be taken to a public one. You will die like everyone else, in agony and in darkness. On that note, let's take a moment to remember Tatenda and the rest of the ordinary people that died because there were no medications, no equipment, and no care from the government. People that could have survived but did not.
Tongogara mukauone Shwaitwanyika na munangagwa Akatenderedzwa nezvikananda Achifuratira masi enyika Wikinero haizimbinga Chikananda Funzai generare Vachakudzai haizimbinga Mumwe weaya makoronyera Mbinga tsura yona veZimbabwe Nzenzara inokonzerwa nehowe Tongogara mukauone Shwaitwa nyika namunangagwa Akatenderedzwa nezvikananda Achifuratira masi enyika Mbinga dzacho dzokatozara Muhomwe yemukuru Kuru wenyika ino Mbinga dzacho.
But wait, that's not the only symptom of this decaying dictatorship. Over in the education sector, a 23-year-old named Tadiwanashe Frank Chiminya managed to derail the entire Zimsec exam process from his coach in Kwekwe. All he needed was WhatsApp, a mobile number, and the entrepreneurial spirit of a black market economist. Zimsec panicked so hard they stopped printing papers. Yes, you heard right. The entire nation's exam printing halted because of one group chat. What's more secure, a Zimsec paper or a chocolate bar in the sun? Debate among yourselves. This is not just embarrassing, it's tragicomic. A national exam board so compromised it had to be infiltrated by its own staff like some low-budget CIA operation. Chiminya is now behind bars, but don't be surprised if he gets approached to run the Ministry of ICT. At least he knows how to run a system that works. Meanwhile, cabinet ministers are patting themselves on the back for approving the Zimsec Amendment Bill, designed to eliminate leakages and increase operational efficiency. Because apparently, what you need to fix a leaking roof isn't new tiles. It's legislation. Minister Torerai Moyo went as far as proposing 9-year sentences for leaking a single paper, which is still less time than it takes for Geza to restore power in Kwazana. He also promised harsh consequences for impersonators, unless of course they are in parliament, where impersonating public servants is basically the national sport. As if that wasn't enough humiliation, the European Union has suspended debt relief support, citing the passage of Mnangagwa's shiny new dictatorship 2, the Private Voluntary Organization PVO Amendment Bill. You know, the one that strangles NGOs, criminalizes dissent, and claims to stop money laundering, even though the only people laundering anything are wearing ZANU-PF scarves. Ambassador Jobst von Kerkman made it clear, no reform, no funding. That's $21 billion still hanging over Zimbabwe's head like a guillotine made of unpaid loans and broken promises. The US had already stormed out of the room after Mnangagwa's 2023 re-election farce. Now the EU has followed, slamming the door and taking the snacks. Mnangagwa's response? Business as usual. Smile, wave, sign another oppressive bill, blame sanctions, and repeat. With ministers threatening exiles, intelligence units playing bounty hunters, and exam papers sold on WhatsApp, Zimbabwe is no longer a country. It's a live-action meme, a soap opera with no punchline, a failed state with a PR department. But here's the twist. Nyokaema Bunu lives. He escaped, and every attempt to silence him only makes his voice louder. Every ministerial threat becomes a headline. Every failure by the state exposes just how afraid they are, not of guns, not of coups, but of the truth. He's not in the WhatsApp groups for now, but when he returns, it won't be with emojis. It will be with explosives of truth. All this because he had threatened to produce evidence of Mnangagwa's son, Sean, plotting to kill the vice president of the country, Constantino Chiwenga. This is Zimwaves TV. We don't leak exam papers, we leak the system. We don't report news, we roast it until the bones of corruption are exposed. Subscribe now and join the revolution of information, because the only bullet we believe in is the one with the facts in the chamber.